Hello and welcome. It's time to hear what's on my mind on this episode of the Trisha's 2 Cents podcast. I'm your host, Trisha. Well, I have a guest with me today because I love talking to her, and she's a repeat guest, and it's my daughter, Taylor. What's up?
Hi.
What's up, Taylor? Thank you for coming today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me again.
Well, today we're going to talk about self-image because Taylor, when she was growing up, and she was considered obese. And I'm going to say, when I got a letter from the school, from, you know how they do physicals, right? And I got a letter saying that she was considered obese. And I didn't like it because, of course, I didn't think she was. I took it to her pediatrician, and I loved what she said, and this is why I loved her. And she said, no, Taylor's not obese. She's fluffy. Remember that? Because she said she will grow out of it. She's still growing. She's still, becoming into herself. So how did that make you feel, Taylor?
I mean, it was definitely something I was conscious of as a child, my weight and how it differed from the other kids and whatnot. But something else I also knew was I'm taller than the other girls.
Right.
Right now I'm about 5'9", 5'10"-ish,
Right.
in that range. And I've always been a tall child. And I never really saw myself as heavy as I was now that I look at the pictures from me from that time.
Explain that a little bit more.
Like, when I look back at those pictures, I think, wow, I was that big. But when I think back to my mindset at the time, I never thought I was that big.
Right. You was just who you were.
Yeah, I knew I was chunky, and I would consider myself more so chunky than fat or obese. I never felt like that.
Right.
But I guess according to their little weight charts that they come up with,
Right.
I was obese. So,
Right. Well, that's why I asked the doctor, because I wanted to know, is this something that we needed to, look into, or, did I have to put you on some kind of quote unquote diet? And she was like, no, she's on the right path because, like you said, your height, you are tall, rather, and you are going to be fine. And another thing she told me, she said, when the time comes, the weight will fall off like it's supposed to. Because I had someone come to me and said, what we going to do about Taylor's weight? And that was someone that wasn't in the family. And the way they said it was like, it was a problem. But then I had another person, and I think they were in the family or whatever, but they said, when the time comes, you will lose the weight if you're supposed to lose the weight. When the time comes, it'll fall off when it's supposed to fall off. And because everybody wants everybody to be like these quote unquote magazines.
yeah.
And it's a lot of pressure to look a certain way. Right?
I mean, it's definitely a pressure to look a certain way. And when you take into consideration where we grew up, most of the girls look the same, and were shaped the same way. And something else I also take into consideration is my body composition. I was born with a shape. I've always had a shape. And when you gain weight, that shape is obviously, I wouldn't say accentuated per se, but just you gain a lot of weight in those areas, and it makes you heavier than you look. So a lot of my weight was carried in my legs or was carried around my hips per se, but I still have like a smaller waist, you know what I mean? And I still had like a smaller frame up top. And hearing those things from some people, because some things I found out about in my older years and some things I found out about when I was younger, it didn't faze me as much. It did faze me somewhat from certain people, but the majority of it was just noise to me.
Now, you did say that you were talked about more at church than you were at school. Can you explain that?
Well, I feel like at school, not to toot my own horn, but I was cool with everyone. Everyone really liked my personality, so it never really got to that point per se. I made a speech at my graduation. That's how much they liked me. So, just saying, I never had issues per se with people at school or it being a bullying problem. But at church, I would hear those comments, especially some of the comments you just mentioned, were coming from people at church. And it's just sad to see how rude they could be to I'm a child. You know what I mean? At this time, I was always a minor. I was always a child. And for them to just speak so outwardly about me and my weight, I just feel as though it was just wrong. It's sad. It's sad to look back on.
Especially when the church is supposed to be a place of healing, of course. And that, that hurts, especially being a Christian, to hear that that's where the hurt came from the most. And I didn't know that at the time because, of course, I would have been right there to address it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, I mean, unfortunately, I might have forgiven those people, but even now, I still stay, 10 feet because for your excuse me, for your mindset to be that way toward, a child, it's very disturbing and it's very unfortunate for you to think that way towards me. And all these people were older. Nobody necessarily my age, and even the ones my age that might have said something, not to be like that, but I was easy to shoot them back. But when it's an adult or someone who's about to be an adult and they're saying it to you. So
just to be clear, you're saying it was adults that were saying something about your weight, not the children, because children are,
Mm-hmm.
You saying it is adults that were saying something about your weight.
I could probably count on one hand the kids that said something about me, but it would take me quite a few hands to mention the adults that talked about me or called me names or just made me feel uncomfortable in my own body.
Wow. Wow. This is the first time I'm hearing this. Wow. Okay. So, now you say you see the same people now. How do you react to them?
Well, their first reaction, let's talk about their reaction first.
Okay.
Most of them don't even recognize me.
Yeah, okay, so, because this is not on video, so people don't know, but, so, you've lost 50 pounds since you've been 18, since you turned 18, you're 23 now, so in 5 years, you've lost 50 pounds. So, these same people that you're talking about, some of them don't even recognize you now.
Yeah, I mean, one person in particular, of course, we're not naming names, but a comment that you said earlier that came from them, I remember seeing them at another church, and they didn't even know who I was until I started talking. And it just shows you how much appearance matters to people and how differently people will treat you when they see you for the first time looking how they think you should look. And, everyone's like, Taylor, is that you? And yeah, it's me. I have the same face. I'm just smaller. Mm-hmm. I truly don't believe I look that different. I just look skinnier,
Right.
But hey, maybe I do. Maybe again, I could have perceived myself as looking something different than what I really look like. But when I look back on those pictures, I don't feel as though I look anything but just a little heavier.
Right.
And for people, and on top of that, when people think of obese, they think of the people you see like my 600-pound life, things like that where it's hard for them to function because they're that heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was never like that. You could tell it was obviously baby weight.
Right.
And again, the way that people talked about me over some baby weight at 12, 13 years old, it's disgusting and it's sad.
Right.
And because they were adults at that time, I cannot look at them differently. Had they been children, because like, for example, some of the kids that used to joke about me, they've hit me up now trying to talk to me, because they think I look cuter now. That I can excuse. When we're kids are mean.
Right.
I've said things as a kid. But you being an adult and saying things to me, and it just hits differently. And it resonates differently within me. So those people, again, I've forgiven them. but it just,
But you move differently when
yeah,
you're on them. Yeah, you know, yeah.
it's a high and by. It's not, I don't want to talk about how much weight I've lost or how good I look, because I looked good before. I was a kid. Like,
Right,
I was
right,
a kid. I was a healthy child, and I just ate a little bit extra. So,
right. Well, wow. Like I said, this is the first time I've heard about some of this. But I appreciate your honesty, and but I see it has made you into a strong individual. Well, you're a strong individual anyway. Even you know, because I think you always loved yourself, even when you were fluffy.
I mean, I always kind of kept in the back of my head that I just wasn't grown up yet, or I just wasn't, you know, I just wasn't where I was supposed to be at yet. And again, there was nothing wrong with that. I did sports growing up, you know. I again, it was nothing lifestyle wise that was so detrimental to me that was like, oh, I have to change this about myself, or I have to do this about myself. You know, I knew it would eventually start falling off, and when I turned 18 and got out of high school, it started falling off. And
Just like the doctor said it would.
literally, I didn't really change
No, you didn't change anything.
eating habits like that. I might have eaten a little less, but it just started falling off on its own and
Your metabolism
sped up. Yeah. And I mean, so again, it's just all the people and everything people have to say. I, if anyone can take anything from this, it's be careful what you say to children, because you don't
Right.
know what will traumatize them or what will stick with them throughout their years.
Right.
And
Exactly.
appearance also, what's your standard of beauty is not someone else's standard of beauty. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So
And beauty is skin deep.
skin deep. So don't, because you don't like how that person looks, that's none of your business or your concern. How does that affect your life? I'm not, no one should have talked to my mother about my weight unless it was a doctor, or, I mean, the school had a right to, you know what I mean? They do the physicals. But, you know, people coming to you and saying, what should we do about baby girl's weight and whatnot?
There wasn't a family member. They weren't, they just,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'd be different
yeah.
if it was, you know, my grandma saying,
Yeah.
hey, Taylor is just looking a little different, or she's getting heavy really fast or something, you know.
Out of concern. This was
Yeah.
more like a vanity concern.
And I remember it being announced to the whole church, and it's different when you're a child and you know you're being talked about and you know you're the one being pointed at. I remember I was in the youth choir, and all the kids were in the youth choir, so all the kids were on the church stand, or the choir stand, excuse me. And when the announcer had said that we have 80-year-old men that are in better shape than our babies, and I looked around at everyone, all the kids that were on that stand, and I knew I was the heaviest one for my age, and you know what I mean, everything like that. I was the heaviest one by my, I guess, statistics or whatnot. I knew he was talking about me. And to know that you could just outwardly, you know, again, about a child. I'm not an adult, and I mean, even if I'm an adult, it's not right, but a child.
Right.
So again, those people, I don't have any ill will towards them. They're ill themselves, so I don't need to wish anything bad on them. So it is what it is at this point. Nothing has, more so the names have stuck with me, but nothing has.
You mean the names people called you?
Yeah, like I'll give you an example. Big Bird, because obviously we're not on video. I'm a yellow person. I'm yellow, and I got called Big Bird one time from a church member, and it's a 50-year-old man, and I just, stuff like that. It just doesn't. And his
You're a
daughter.
kid.
His daughter was big herself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't talk about someone's child. Don't talk, especially when you're talking directly to the child. It's just certain things should be off limits, and it's unfortunate that adults need to be taught that lesson towards a child. So, but again, I mean, and then it's not just the church. I had some family members too that had said some things, and you know, would comment about how I was bigger than my mom, and that hurt.
Right.
That one hurt.
Yeah.
But
Oh. Well, thank you for sharing.
thank you for having me.
I appreciate it.
And I just pray that everyone gets from this. Don't make comments about a child's weight.
Because it sticks with them.
It's different if you're in concern because their weight's fluctuating or you see rapid changes. But, let a child grow. You don't know. They could have some type of medical condition that's causing that to happen. Don't speak on someone's weight, whether they're a child or an adult, because you don't know how that's going to affect them. So.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we thank you for listening to this episode of the Trisha's 2 Cents podcast. Join us on the next episode as I give life lessons through my experience, my growth, and always from my heart. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite listening platform.